Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I am so grateful to our essential workers who, on a daily basis, put themselves in harm's way and continue to offer loving, genuine, and kind and sympathetic care. Congratulations to our 2020 essential workers.
Prospero Health operates in over 10 states nationally and proudly submits the following names representing their Midwest, Northwest, and Southeast regions. In the Midwest region, Supriti Rangan, NP, Palliative Care Nurse Practitioner, Jeanette Ayeni, NP, Palliative Care Nurse Practitioner, Stephanie Orlando, APN, Palliative Care Nurse Practitioner. In the Northeast region, Lanny Taylor, ARNP, BC, Clinical Service Manager, Dr. Glendo Tangarang, MD, Market Medical Director for Connecticut. In the Southeast region, Tisha Kulchuk, RN, BSN, Palliative Care Registered Nurse. Randy Albin, NP, Palliative Care Nurse Practitioner. Today we salute them and we congratulate them.
My name is Mary Remington. I'm a Buddhist chaplain and the director of the Spiritual Care Department at Good Samaritan Hospital in Suffern, New York. The question was asked, what do chaplains do? And why would they be considered an essential worker during these days of the pandemic? Why are they on the front line? I first want to describe what a chaplain is and what exactly they do within the medical setting. We all know the goal of medical care is not only to heal illness and disease. Healing is a multidimensional process within the physical, emotional, and spiritual realms. Chaplains in particular address the spiritual realm within the patient and also their loved ones who support them. They are trained to offer something incredibly simple, and I would say quite rare. They offer their full and undivided presence. They bear witness to the unexpected journeys, evolving feelings, and complexities of the human experience. Chaplains build relationships of trust. They offer compassionate and unbiased care and concern for the well-being of the patient in their healing journey. They help hold one's grief, suffering, and pain, as well as help uplift one's joy, courage, and sense of well-being. Chaplains are trained to support the religious and non-religious. They conduct and guide prayer. They offer meditation and space for reflection. They offer themselves as an empty container or a sounding board or even a mirror for the patient to see herself more clearly. Chaplains help complete the full circle of holistic care for the patient and their families. They also support the clinicians and staff that comprise the medical caregiving system. In essence, they offer care from the heart in order to tend to and alleviate suffering. Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen offered a beautiful quote, which I feel also captures an ethical essence of caregiving between chaplain and patient. She said this, "When you help, you see life as weak. When you fix, you see life as broken. When you serve, you see life as whole. Fixing and helping may be the work of the ego, and service, the work of the soul." The question of how we serve one another could not be more important during these days of the pandemic. Do we meet one another with kindness, forbearance, patience? I feel that when we uplift a sense of wholeness amidst these days that often feel so utterly shattered, we are engaging in an act of humility, healing, and partnership. I feel this is a chaplain's work, and yes, it is essential. And this work is essential for all of us to engage. We are all on this front line. We are all the patient. We are all the chaplain. It has never been more obvious how essential we are to each other's flourishing and well-being. I feel we are born to take care of one another in wild and wondrous ways. And in the face of so much uncertainty and unknown, we need to know and love one another. And all this is not for tomorrow, it's not for next year, it's not for the next generation, it's now. And so when you see a chaplain entering into a patient's room, or when you imagine it in your mind, I invite you to see yourself walking through the doorway. Erase the illusion of separation. Pandemic or not, frontline or not, essential worker or non-essential worker, these are all just words. The act of walking through the threshold to meet one another, it is what brings us closer to God, to love, to peace, and to each other.
My name is Kerrigan Taylor. When I was 3, I think it was the day of my 3rd birthday.
The day before.
Oh, before my 3rd birthday, I got diagnosed with brain cancer.
Tell us about yourself. What do you like to do?
I like to cook and bake
Okay.
with
Are you
my
a-
mom and grandma.
Are you a good baker?
I think so.
Tell us, where does your strength come from?
Probably my parents.
Sean and Alex, tell us, if you will, about where your strength comes. Tell us about your story. Tell us about, from your perspective, about Kerrigan.
I've been able to kind of deal with the emotional strain and all that because of her personality. And she's always been just like a happy kid, a really happy patient. I think it was kind of a blessing, if you can call it that, that she was diagnosed at 3 because it's all she knows. And so being 3 years old and being told, hey, we get to go to the hospital and we're going to get, stickers and we're going to go get our port access. But then after that, we get to do that. Like it was an easy bargaining tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, it's, I guess it's comparative to somebody with like diabetes. It's kind of all they know, all they've ever done. So she's just a happy, really easy spirit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's been easy to deal with that, easier, I guess, because of her personality and her just kind of, she never acted like she was suffering, even when she felt really bad.
Sean, what is your thoughts?
I would say my strength as well comes from Kerrigan, watching Kerrigan. So when she first started and had to go through chemotherapy twice a month, every other week, I would go with her to the hospital for that, and I'd watch her go through getting her treatment. And sometimes it was fine, and other times she would be throwing up. But then every Saturday after she had a treatment, she was doing dance at that time. And so she was still wanting to go to dance class, and she would go to dance, and she would go in there and she would practice, and then she might put her hand up. She would step out, go to the restroom if she had to, vomit, and then she would go right back in there and continue dancing, and she didn't want to stop. So just seeing her do that, kind of gave me strength in that.
You know what? I know you're leading to it already, but you've had challenges. What do you celebrate?
I say that we celebrate that. I mean, I guess you hear stories about like kids with cancer and things, and it's bad. I think for us, I guess a way that we could celebrate it, that we had support, and I feel even though she was diagnosed, things worked out the way they were supposed to. So I think that was all set up, as a blessing for that. And then just having the support of, family, both my family, my in-laws, just, taking care of there's, things that are needed. And just, people, in the community, such as yourself, to give kind words, and just partnerships through like Make-A-Wish Foundation and sponsors we have with that.
Darlene, tell me what is most helpful from your doctors, your nurses, when you go into the hospital, or your doctor's appointment, what has been most helpful?
Whenever I get an MRI, they use small needles, because usually whenever they used to use big needles, I would have like a major freak out.
Okay.
I think she means that they're really accommodating, like because she is a child, and even though she has been through so many things, if she has a wish, we've been blessed with teams that are they listen, like they listen to what her desires are, that she's afraid of the big needles after she got her port out. So if she was like, can you use a butterfly? They're listening to her.
Mhm.
Even though she's a little girl, her team has been really great about doing that.
My question to you is, has there ever been an experience where it wasn't favorable? They could have done better.
I remember one time whenever I had to get I had to keep getting shots in my port because I couldn't get it the first time, and then they did give me an IV like 3 times in my IV in my arm because it wasn't working the first few times.
I think it goes back to listening, because she
Yeah.
told them in that experience, it was horrible. And I think that's
Right.
at the point, yeah, like just to listen to her, because she's real quick. She's like, I take a 22 gauge 3/4 needle when in her port. She could tell them at 4. And this lady's like, oh, IV's easier. And she at 4 or 5 was like, no, my port's right here. It's easier. I don't care if you don't numb it. And they didn't listen to her. And so I say that we have a great team, but there have been those sporadic practitioners who don't. And I think just listen to the child, even if she's a child, because you may be an expert, but every patient is different.
Tiny.
Yeah, and she has bad veins, and they ended up nicking a vein, poking her 5 or 6 times, and I had to step in and be like, look, I'm gonna have to put on my mommy hat and get a little up. You don't stop and listen to what she's saying and what I'm saying.
What would be your advice to caregivers of teenagers?
I think just reach out, because like Sean said, having somebody in the corner like you've always been an advocate for us, having places like Camp Quality, which is the most amazing organization. One of her nurses, Nurse Terry, when she was inpatient one day, was like, have you ever heard of Camp Quality? And she was probably like 6, maybe?
This went when I was 8.
Yeah, and he's like, this is camp where kids can be kids. And it's a week-long camp where no matter what your treatment status is, past cancer patient, whatever, you go and you can canoe, you can zip line, do crafts. Every child has their own companion, which is like a counselor. There's nurses that go. So if you're on chemo, if you need blood, whatever you need, you go. If you have a episode where you need to leave the camp, the nurses will go with you, try to stabilize you and bring you back. Because you as parents, you need that respite. You need someone who's going through the same thing. You need somebody who understands. She needs friends who get it. I mean, if she's bald and's got a port line, or she can't go in the lake because she can't go in live water because of bacteria, there's other kids who understand. So I would just say, reach out, find people who get it, find support in your church or community, some organization that is going to kind of provide you with that respite.
Tell me that when your best day, why is it a best day?
Probably because there's like no problems going on that day, or everything's like perfect. And everyone's like happy.
What would you be doing?
Me, I'd probably be hanging out with all of my friends and probably just doing whatever, not caring what others say or stuff.
We're finally at a point, because we have 4, they're 15, 13, 11, and 8. So from each other, from our kids, kind of relying on each other, taking the burden off, you do this, I'll do this, you tag team this, I'll tag team this. And this is a little mini mama here. So she's a huge support. I can, I'm teaching virtually right now. I just finished a training right now with Vanderbilt. And I can be like, Kerrigan, can you take the chicken out and start the oven? So I think just asking for help is huge. And, having to do that, even if it has to come from this little Care Bear.
And I would agree with that. And then in addition to doing that, those things that I do, I've been doing more, recently still, like, past few years is, using like scripture more related to like things that I'm feeling like if I deal with it, because at times, you feel as like the man and the head of the household that you can't show your emotions, because if something's bothering you about what's going on, then everyone else sees that. So sometimes you gotta, stay strong and always smile. So it's just, stepping away and, reading some scripture, meditating, and just, going, away by myself and to do what I need to do to release those emotions, and then, pulling it back together and coming back, to be the support for everyone.
I like making birthday cakes for my family. Whenever it comes around to their birthday, I baked a cake for my dad not too long ago, and my sister Cassie wants me to bake a cake for her birthday. And I don't really cook that much. I bake more than I cook.
So, Christian, you may be able to answer this. What advice would you give to others who are dealing with what you're dealing with? You have a sister who has a diagnosis.
Well, I think the advice I'd give to other kids is just cherish the time that you have with the person, because you never know what could happen with them. Another thing is just help them and support them all the way through their journey. Yeah, always love them, be by their side. Yeah, make sure they're always happy. That's what I think.
As you can see, I love Kerrigan. Kerrigan is I have to say this, she is the reason I believe I continue to do the work that I do. I've known Kerrigan since she was 3, and she is a remarkable young lady, and I have watched her endure. I have watched her family endure. I have watched her struggle. I have watched her dance. I have watched her joy. I have watched her speak as a remarkable young lady. She truly is an amazing person. And it's something, because her parents mentioned, if Kerrigan can do it, so can I. This individual has endured treatment after treatment. She's done experimental treatment, and yet she still rises. And I thank God for her, and I thank God that He saw fit to allow me the privilege to serve Kerrigan and her family. And so this is the reason why we are here. We don't always think that advanced illness is relatable to children, but the truth be told, that advanced illness touches all ages, all communities, and it touches all of us. So this is why we do what we do. And now we'll have John Broyles, C-TAC's Executive Director, for our final remarks.
So thank you for the words of commitment and inspiration that we've heard today from so many of our faith leaders within C-TAC. The faith community for me and for the board of C-TAC is really central to our coalition. They're central for 2 reasons. One is inspiration, and the second is advocacy. So when I think of inspiration, I think of the story of David and Goliath. And nobody counted on David as the person to defeat Goliath. The first thing that he did that no one else did, though, he didn't go out and write a grant proposal. He didn't go out and commission a feasibility study on defeating Goliath. He got angry. He got upset. He had moral outrage at what was happening, and he worked from there to figure out the solution, to innovate. And I think the faith community, so many faith leaders have helped me see that the current situation of inequity in serious illness care can't stand. We have to act, and that starts with getting our hearts into the action. The second is accountability and advocacy. The faith community so often represents communities that have been traditionally underserved, underrepresented, and haven't had a voice. The faith community is that voice for them. And they are also a voice of accountability. And we need their accountability for moving the work of centering equity in serious illness care moving forward. And we look forward to working with our Interfaith and Diversity work group under the leadership of Elder Angela Overton to achieve our 2030 moonshot. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your participation at the 2020 National Summit.
In a chaplain's handbook, I found this reminder, and I charge us to do the same. Let us go forth into the world in peace and dedicated to service. Let us hold fast to that which is good. Let us strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the needy and the afflicted, and honor all people. Help us to remember that freedom does not automatically perpetuate itself, that we have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and pray for it. Freedom, like faith, needs our attention and our cooperation. We pause at the close of this meeting to remember all those who departed this life amid COVID-19 and those who served them at the end of their life. Let us learn from them and go forth. Peace be with you.